You just tapped your phone for a $5 coffee. You didn't blink. You didn't flinch. You probably didn't even remember doing it until I said it. Now imagine a stranger walks up and asks you for $5 in cash. For nothing. No coffee, no app, no product, just gone. Would you hesitate? Would you ask why? Same $5, same value. But one feels like nothing, and the other feels like a tiny robbery. Why? This isn't another stop buying coffee video, I promise. This is about a quiet hole in your brain, a place where money falls and never makes a sound. Because your brain has a weird little secret. It doesn't feel $5 as $5. It feels context. It feels the method. And it feels the mental drawer you drop it into. Let's start with the drawer. There's a concept from behavioral economics called mental accounting. Richard Thaler, a Nobel Prize winner, noticed that people don't treat money as one big pile. They sort it into separate mental accounts. Rent lives in one, groceries in another, vacation in a third. And then there's the miscellaneous drawer, the junk drawer of your finances. Thaler noticed that small daily expenses often don't get booked. They get tossed into something like petty cash. You know how offices keep a small cash box for tiny expenses that nobody audits? Your brain has one too, and it keeps the lid very tight. That $5 coffee doesn't feel like a real expense because it went into the too small to matter file. No receipt, no monthly review, no little voice saying, wait, that's the 6th one this week. That drawer is silent. And honestly, it's probably the busiest drawer you own. I once paid $11 for a lukewarm sandwich at a train station and didn't flinch. But at home, I will spend 20 minutes comparing 2 brands of dish soap to save 40 cents. Why? Because my brain filed the train sandwich under travel nonsense and the dish soap under real household money. Same dollars, different mental zip codes. The logic is missing in action. But the drawer is only one crack. There's also the payment method. In the late 1990s, 2 researchers, Prelick and Lowenstein, introduced something they called the pain of paying. Spending money isn't neutral. It produces a small flash of emotional discomfort. Not physical pain, more like an internal wince. Brain imaging work has pointed to a region called the anterior insula. It's involved in processing unpleasantness and aversive experiences. When you see a price that feels too high, that area can light up. But here's the catch. The pain isn't the same for every method. Paying with cash has a body. You open the wallet. You pull out the bills. You feel them leave your fingers. There's a tiny funeral for every note. Paying with card doesn't have that. The money leaves your account, but the moment feels different. George Lowenstein put it simply. Credit cards effectively anesthetize the pain of paying. They don't remove the cost. They just turn down the volume on the wince. But then things get even stranger. In a 2021 fMRI study, researchers watched what happened when people paid with credit cards versus cash. Credit card purchases were associated with stronger activity in the striatum, a region involved in reward processing. Cash purchases? In that study, the reward signal was much weaker, and mostly for cheap items. But with a card, the brain looked like it was getting a small reward. And the surprising part, that activity appeared as soon as the card itself showed up on screen. Not when the price changed, not when the product appeared, just the card. Before the brain even knew what it was buying, the reward system was already warming up. So the card may not just turn down the pain of paying, it may also make the whole experience feel a little more rewarding. It's not only releasing the brake, it may be pressing the gas a little. Now you can see the whole picture. A $5 purchase is easy to treat as petty cash, something too small to inspect. It's paid with a card, so the sting is numbed. And the card itself may trigger a tiny reward before you even buy anything. 3 separate cracks. And the $5 slips through all of them. This is where a lot of advice says, just be more disciplined, track everything, cut the small stuff. And sure, awareness helps. But that advice misses something bigger. Your brain was never a calculator. It doesn't give every expense the same amount of attention. It pays attention to things that feel big, sharp, and immediate. It ignores things that feel small, soft, and distant. Cash has a face. A card tap doesn't. A $5 bill in your hand feels real because it's physical and final. A $5 charge on a card doesn't sting because the pain has been turned down. And a $5 purchase in the petty cash drawer doesn't get noticed because that drawer never gets opened. That's why these purchases don't just get forgotten once. They get forgotten every single day. The coffee, the snack, the app, the delivery fee you accepted without blinking. Not because you're lazy, not because you're bad with money, but because your brain is doing what brains often do, giving less attention to things that feel small, painless, and invisible. So maybe the real question isn't, why do I keep spending $5? The real question is, why does $5 pass through my brain without leaving a single footprint? And the answer is that your brain doesn't feel $5. It feels context. It feels the payment method. It feels the account. And small purchases are perfectly shaped to slip through all three. The next time you tap your phone for something small, remember, your brain didn't just fail to notice. It filed that charge under too small to matter and closed the folder. That's not a flaw. That's the factory setting. And it comes with a very generous auto-delete button.